am I too stupid to manage my own money? Am I not educated enough to understand my own finance? You can understand these concepts very quickly. And like I said, we've got people from the whole spectrum inside the DeFi Academy, people that have never traded a crypto before, and people that have traded more crypto than I've ever met in my life before. This is the trusted source of information in the DeFi space. I don't see DeFi as an alternative to your 401k, as an alternative to investing in stocks and bonds and real estate. I see DeFi as your chance to define your purpose in life. The people I'm assembling here inside the DeFi Academy, we are going to change the game. We'll probably be remembered for what we've done in DeFi. Everybody throws up their hands and whines and complains about Facebook having their information, or Google having their information, or Apple having their information. But no one thinks about your financial information. What have you spent every single dollar on, or euro on, or pound on for the past 30, 40, 50 years of your life? I'll know everything about you. I'll know all of your dark secrets. I'll know the good and the bad and the ugly if I know where every single dollar has gone. And guess who knows that? Your financial institutions. And guess what they do with that information? Exactly, not good things. This is your moment. Are you gonna make this happen? Are you going to apply? Are you gonna go all in? Are you gonna pitch yourself? And are you gonna change your life? You can go faster alone, but you can go further together. And that's what the DeFi Academy is all about. Welcome to DeFi Live. My name is Brian Rose. I'm the founder and host of London Real, and this is our brand new program, and it's dedicated to everything known as DeFi, also known as decentralized finance, which is a $9 trillion a year marketplace that's about to explode. Today, I'm going to teach you how to profit from the future of DeFi and crypto, and it comes from understanding the past. So we're gonna go way back in history here. And the reason I'm focused on this entire industry right now is because decentralized finance is what I'm calling the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history. This is the time, and I couldn't be more excited. Now look, we've all seen the news lately. Crypto crashes, crypto rallies. Now everyone's guessing what's going to happen next. Is this going to be a winter or a summer? Is it going to go to 200,000? Is it going down to 10,000? Everyone keeps playing the guessing game, which is why understanding the history of DeFi is so important. And I believe it was Marcus Aurelius, the famous Roman Empire, who once said, and he was the emperor of Rome, he was the Stoic philosopher, and he said, quote, "Look back over the past with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." And you know, he was a pretty smart guy, the old Marcus, and we're gonna take a note from his book and we're gonna go backwards in order to look forwards. And the truth is this: decentralized finance is already revolutionizing the future. You just don't know it yet. And again, I couldn't be more excited. This incredible marketplace is growing at a breakneck speed. And today I specifically want to talk about the history of DeFi in three areas of time. And what I'm going to talk about today is just a tiny little taste of what my students are going to get in the DeFi Academy, which kicks off on Monday. I'll talk a little bit more about that lately. But I thought I'd just give you a little taste of what they see. And this is our DeFi timeline. And this goes all the way back to 2008, 2009, and the creation of Bitcoin. And it goes up through some of the biggest innovations that we've seen in the space, including Ethereum and Maker and Synthetics and Uniswap. And that's a bit of what we're going to talk about today. But again, I want to talk about three sections. First, in the beginning, there was Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the launch of Maker, a very important event in the history of DeFi. Next, we're going to talk about the ICO Boom and Bust. And if you just look at this chart here, you can see the craziness that happened back in 2017. Type me a comment right now, wherever you're watching this, if you remember the ICO Boom and Bust, if you were involved. You can be honest if you bought some of those crappy coins back then. We're going to talk about this period of DeFi, as well as Ether Delta, which was the first DEX, which is a decentralized exchange. We're going to find out the lessons that we learned from the ICO Boom and Bust. We're also going to talk about the great things that happened behind the scenes in the DeFi space. While everybody was crying and picking up the pieces after they lost all the money, the truth is there was some great work being done by Uniswap and the creation of liquidity pools that brought us to today, where we are now experiencing an incredible time. And that's what I want to cover last, which is something called the DeFi summer, which happened in 2020. And that's when we saw the market go really big after Black Thursday, which was March 12, 2020, a horrible day for crypto. But we also saw the creation of all sorts of DeFi protocols, including the compound liquidity mining and the future, of course, which is Ethereum 2.0 and beyond. And lastly, what I want to say is this. What you're about to see is educational content. It is not financial advice. So before we get started, so many people are asking me all sorts of questions about our brand new DeFi Academy, and I want to talk about that right now really quickly before we get started. Some of you have been to our Academy. You've probably seen this page, and the Academy is where you are going to join me, and I'm going to teach you how to profit from what I'm calling the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history. I'm looking for a small, select group of people who want to become part of and actively participate in the upcoming DeFi revolution. And I'm looking for serious individuals only who want to help build this exciting financial infrastructure of the future. Before we get into the history of DeFi, I want to answer a few questions about the DeFi Academy. Again, a lot of you have been to this page. You're probably seeing on the screen right now. And this is the DeFi Academy. Join me, and I'm going to teach you how to profit from the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history. I'm looking for a small, select group of people who want to become part of and actively participate in the upcoming DeFi revolution. I'm looking for serious individuals only who want to help build this exciting infrastructure of the future. I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with us and create real value and generational wealth. Our first live course, the DeFi Accelerator, the keys to unlock a $9 trillion marketplace, is starting days from now. We've got a limited number of spaces available. It's an application-only basis. It consists of 4 modules, 8 hours of live calls with me personally. It's 4 weeks long. Our first call, like I said, is days away, and it's personal coaching by me. It's exclusive access to our online e-learning platform with videos and workbooks and modules. You get my triple-tiered accountability system I've used over the past 6 years to graduate over 5,000 students. And you've got over 10 dedicated coaches, team leaders, and community managers that are going to work with you every single day to get you up the curve when it comes to all things DeFi. We've got a private group. People are posting videos, their assignment work, questions, exchanging information. It's absolutely incredible, but we're running out of time, and you are running out of time right now. We've been inundated with thousands of applications all around the world. The response has been absolutely incredible. I've never been so excited in the past 10 years, and I've never seen anything like this before. There's real interest, there's real passion, because people can see the future is decentralized finance. And I gotta say this, if you get one of these in your inbox, if you get this image in your inbox, well, that means your life is about to change, because these are only sent to people that I have personally approved and accepted based on their application to join us inside the DeFi Accelerator. And again, if you get one of these, make sure you pull the trigger, click the link, and sign up as soon as possible. And if you're one of these special people, apply now. Go to londonreal.tv/DeFi. I just want to make a few things clear. My academy is not for certain individuals. And I'll tell you who it's not for. It is not for crypto day traders. Please go somewhere else. It's not for people who want to get rich quick. Again, there's plenty of people that want to sell you that on the internet. Go somewhere else when it comes to crypto. I'm not looking for meme coin fans and forum trolls. I'm not looking for blockchain fanboys, and I'm not looking for crypto academics. All of these people need to go somewhere else. My academy is for serious people only. I'm looking for people who want to pull the trigger, who want to actually get into the arena, who are prepared to experience failure and know great success. And again, I just want to be clear, I'm looking for people that want to work with me over the next 10 years and build the crucial infrastructure that will become decentralized finance. I'm talking about something that's going to change the world and give financial freedom back to over 4 billion people in the world that don't have access to basic finance. It's unfair. And we're fighting for freedom and financial freedom for people all around the world. This is so important, and this is something we're going all in on, and we're dedicating, like I said, the next 10 years of our life. I'm closing out this course soon. If you want to be a part of history and learn from the best in the business and be positioned to thrive in this emerging marketplace, go to londonreal.tv/DeFi, and we will see you there. All right, let's get started. I want questions from you. This is live. They're beaming me right over here to my iPad. No matter where you're watching us, our in-studio Zoom audience, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you're at, leave me a question right now. First of all, tell me, Are you tired of centralized financial institutions like banks stealing money from hardworking people with their hidden fees, their costs, and their margins? Be honest, tell me. Second, what questions do you have for me about DeFi, and why do you think this will revolutionize finance and give financial freedom back to the people? Third, tell me, do you have a trusted source of information and mentorship in the DeFi and crypto space that can advise you for the next 10 years? Do you have that resource? Answer that question right now. And lastly, would you like to learn from me how to profit from DeFi, the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history? Leave me your answers below, and let's get started with this broadcast. I want to kick off with part one, and I say, in the beginning, there was Bitcoin. And you can see our timeline here of the incredible things that have happened in DeFi over the past 12 years. We start all off with Bitcoin back in 2008 and 2009, and let's talk about how this all happened. Bitcoin was created in 2008. It was a white paper that was published by the now infamous Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's a simple piece of paper. It's 9 pages, but it talks about something in a revolutionary way that got a lot of people's attention. It was actually implemented about a year later in 2009. But the idea was this: Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency without a central bank or a single administrator that can be sent from user to user over the peer-to-peer Bitcoin network without the need for intermediaries. This is so important. The key innovation here was requiring proof of work. This is such an important point, and we go deep into proof of work versus proof of stake. We go into all this in the DeFi Academy. But right now, it's important to know that the big innovation back in the day was proof of work, and that's to accept a new block of the blockchain. And it's a process known now as mining, where Bitcoins are created as a reward for complex and computer-intensive mathematical calculations called hashes. This takes me back to my days at MIT when I had to learn all of this complicated math because that's what's being used to create and hash out these new blockchains. And it's that proof of work that allows the authenticity of the blockchain to be created. And again, let's be honest, this entire financial revolution known as crypto and DeFi is entirely predicated on the concept of Bitcoin. So you need to understand your history, again, to predict the future. So it's important that you have a fundamental understanding of exactly what happened here and why the concept is so groundbreaking. And that's why we go deep on this inside the DeFi Academy in Module 1. And to all my students, we'll be doing that next week. Next, I want to talk about what happened, because we had to wait until 2014 for real DeFi to happen. Unfortunately, because of Bitcoin and the size of the script, you can't piggyback so much on that blockchain. And unfortunately, we had to wait for the creation of Ethereum in 2014 until we could really see the revolution of DeFi happen in front of our eyes. And a lot of you have heard of Vitalik Buterin. He's a Russian that moved to Canada. He's a programmer, and at 19 years old, he became one of the co-founders of Ethereum. And just to be clear, Ethereum is a decentralized, open source blockchain with smart contract functionality. This is so important because this was missing with Bitcoin. And it allows developers to build and operate decentralized applications, also known as dApps, that users can interact with. And so this is what the world of DeFi was waiting for. And it soon became the go-to smart contract to build on. And again, I've been speaking with everyone back in the day, from Max Kaiser to Andreas Antonopoulos to Tika Tawari, to all of these people. And I've charted the history through the episodes of London Real over the past 8 years. And this was a crucial moment that everyone had been waiting for. And much of DeFi is built on this Ethereum blockchain, and we'll talk more about that later. The next big event that happened was in 2017, and this was the launch of Maker and a concept called Stablecoins. Now, let me briefly tell you, Maker was funded by venture capital. It launched at the end of 2017, and it created the first stablecoin. It was a US dollar pegged DAI. And just so you know how it works, it's over-collateralized with Ethereum or ETH to ensure that it holds its value. And the idea is that it really tries to hold the value of a DAI to exactly $1. It actually floats up and down, but that's a whole nother detail. And so what happens is that Maker might actually hold $1.40 worth of ETH in order to ensure that you always have that $1 to back that stable coin of DAI. And again, it was a massive innovation because before this, all we have are these massively volatile cryptocurrencies, from Bitcoin to even ETH was volatile. Now we have a basic building block. And if you look at DAI or USDC or Tether, all of these stable coins are pegged to the US dollar. Again, there's small fluctuations, but they're basically pegged and they're over collateralized. And this innovation, it took the volatility out of crypto and it became a major building block for the DeFi infrastructure. Now later, Maker would introduce multi-collateral DAIs, so it wasn't just Ethereum that it was backed by, but other coins, which meant in volatile times, you weren't worrying about what one coin would do, but you had a little bit more of a hedge, more of a diversified portfolio in your DAI. Again, these are big moments that will show why the future and where the future is going to go. Now, it might not seem like much. Okay, so something's worth $1. Who cares? That was a very important building block that created the future we know now today. So again, I'm going through this stuff really fast. If you are lucky enough to be one of my students, we're going to go deep into this stuff because I truly believe that if you understand your history, like Marcus Aurelius said, you can see the future. And that's why we're going to go deep on this stuff. And so I want to finish with a great video that I recorded with Andreas Antonopoulos. This is back in 2015, when he was just trying to explain to me the future ecosystem of DeFi, and yet it wasn't even called DeFi yet. And yet Andreas was smart enough to realize this one concept. And he said, Brian, if Bitcoin is email, what I'm talking about is the internet of money. And he was forecasting what DeFi would one day be, but I'd like you to hear Andreas say it right now. So here's a video from him back in the day.
The easiest way to explain it is this. If you are introduced to the internet in 1992, you may make the obvious mistake of assuming that email is the internet. And for a very long time, email and the internet are indistinguishable. And it's not until 95 that the web comes along. And when you have two major applications on the platform, that allows you to see the platform. Until then, when there's only one application, you confuse the application and the platform. Bitcoin, the currency, is email. It's not the real invention. It's the first application of that invention. So Bitcoin as a whole is not just money for the internet. It's the internet of money. And currency is just the first application on the internet of money. And there is a whole set of applications that we can build on top of that. So when I read the paper, that's what I started realizing. This is a platform, and on top of it, you can build decentralized trust mechanisms. And currency is the obvious first application. And that alone is huge. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely huge, but it's not even the beginning.
And again, I love watching these old episodes with Andreas, because when you look at the perspective he had back in 2015, 2017, 2019, which is the years we had him on, you can really see what then became the future. So it's great to see that you actually can predict the future by knowing the past. And Andreas saw this coming a mile away. He knew that Bitcoin was just a currency in what would become a financial system. And he knew we needed a backbone, which would be Ethereum, that everything could be programmed on. So it's exciting. And of course, today we know there are other options besides Ethereum, and I'll get into that. But right now, I want to ask you some questions. Answer these. They're coming right to my iPad. If you've never asked me a question before, do it now. First of all, are you tired of centralized financial institutions like banks stealing money from hardworking people with hidden fees, costs, and margins? Be honest. Second, what questions do you have for me about DeFi, and why do you think it will revolutionize finance and give financial freedom back to the people? Third, do you have a trusted source of information and mentorship in the DeFi and crypto space who can advise you for the next 10 years? And finally, tell me, would you like to learn from me on how to profit from what I'm calling the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history? Couldn't be more excited to go to your questions here. Just waiting for them to be queued up, and boom, here we go. They're all kicking off here. Let me just get a little bit of an update here. We've got a bunch of people coming in here. First of all, someone is saying, let me just see. Someone was just saying, how much investing in, sorry, 1 second there. Let me just see. Let me get my questions here. Oh, here we go. Someone just said, Brian, do you think that Bitcoin will one day become part of a blockchain that can be programmable? And it's a good question. It's something that we actually hear quite a few times from quite a few people because, you know, a lot of people say that there's Bitcoin, there's the Lightning Network, and there's a lot of possibilities that we still have based on the Bitcoin chain, and we don't have to just look to Ethereum. The truth is that we've seen so much development happen on Ethereum that it's almost the go-to for all the programmers and developers. We've seen so many dApps happen there as well, and it seems like what's going to be the move forward. And so it looks to me as if that is what's going to happen, and that's going to be the way forward. And so for now, it looks like it's probably not going to happen on Bitcoin, but it could also happen on Ethereum as well. And so again, going to more questions and comments here, just waiting for more of them to come in here. Got a few here for people that's saying, Brian, tell me, what do you think about Ethereum 2.0? Do you think that this whole platform is going to change? And do you think it's going to cause kind of a change in what people are going to put their money to as far as the dApps and the other paces from there? And again, some of my questions are coming in a little bit slow, so I'll probably get more coming from the Zoom audience soon, just coming into my Slack here. Look, the future is very interesting because we've got Ethereum 2.0 coming up. We've got a lot of new developments from places like Polkadot that have blockchains speaking to each other. And so there are a lot of very interesting things happening here. But again, that's why it's important to look at the past to find out what's going to happen in the future. The truth is that a lot of these things boom and bust. And in the second part here, I'm going to talk about some of the failures that we saw happen in 2016 and 17, including hacks, including ICO booms and busts, and all sorts of other things happening as well. And so that's going to be exciting as well. And so again, I'm still answering questions here. And we've got Assad on YouTube that's saying, hello, Brian. Nice to see you come up with such innovative ideas and introduce these disruptive technologies. Will have a huge impact on our lives very soon. Thank you very much, Assad. I've actually just heard our gong ring inside our studio, which means someone has just joined the DeFi Academy. I'll get a name here coming soon, but that's a big moment. We appreciate you being here. What I want you to do right away is get into our e-learning platform. Module 0 has been dropped. I need an introduction video. I need you to introduce yourself to the class and, of course, set up the calendar invites for the live calls that are happening next week, and we couldn't be more excited to have you. I've got Immobilius on Instagram says simply, you're awesome, Brian. Thank you very much. I got Precious Pieces Official on Instagram says, I have never done anything like this. Can I be successful in DeFi? You know, I just had a mother of 3 children join us in New Zealand, and she said, you know what, Brian? I was always taught that finance and money were complicated and I needed to have a financial advisor, but I no longer think that is true. I think that's a lie that's been told to me, and that's why I'm taking control of my own finances and I'm taking your course because I want to learn about crypto, and DeFi does seem like the future. And so I would say to you, Precious, is that anyone can be successful in this ecosystem. All you have to do is find the right mentor, find the right trusted source of information, and you can take this all the way. And so again, we've got people from all sorts of skill levels inside the DeFi Academy. Some people who have never traded a crypto in the world, some people who actually have crypto startups and DeFi startups, and some people who bought Bitcoin like I did back in 2013. So it really runs the gamut. We appreciate that as well. And that was Spencer joining us today on the gong there. And he also asked via Zoom, and Spencer, it's great having you here. He says, what's the best way to research different DeFi platforms, programs, coins as well? And Spencer, first of all, great having you, and we appreciate you joining us. And thank you to our studio audience in Zoom. I guess we gave them a big of a shout out there. We'll go back to the Zoom audience, maybe. Everybody give us a wave here. This is our in-studio audience, and I try to give them precedence for questions here. And again, all you Zoom people, stick your questions here. But Spencer, it's a good question. Inside the accelerator, I've given you everything you're going to need for your first education when it comes to crypto and DeFi. And so again, you're going to be getting module 1 in the next couple days, and that's going to give you a deep dive into the entire history of DeFi. From there, we're going to start getting our hands dirty. You're going to get your hot wallets, your cold wallets. You're going to get involved on your centralized exchanges. We're going to start putting on your first few trades, and we're going to start to really learn the ecosystem. Then we're going to start getting into complex instruments, decentralized exchanges, derivatives, and then we're going to talk about long-term trading strategies and some of the incredible opportunities. So Spencer, you're in the right place. All I would say is go deep on the course materials, and that's how we're going to get you to the next level. A couple more questions is, we got Nobuku Hara Our old friend on Zoom, Nobuku, we appreciate you. She was with us for the mayoral campaign. She's a Broadcast Yourself graduate. She just joined our Business Accelerator. And she says, Brian, I know that DeFi will revolutionize finance, but I'm not sure if I have the necessary experience. I'm a beginner. And again, Nobuku, it's a great question. And it's one that everyone hears. And I think it comes back to something I was talking with Robert Kiyosaki about last week. And Robert Kiyosaki is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's an old friend of mine. He's been on London Real for 5 years. And he wrote this incredible book that's the #1 personal finance book of all time. And he always says this statement to me, and it never gets old. He said, Brian, poor people work for money. Rich people make money work for them. And Robert always goes on to remind me that our school system, all of your education, was predicated on one concept. It was created to get you a job. It was made to get you to remember things and learn things that would make you a really good worker so you could work for money. It also conditioned you to think that you're not smart enough to manage your money. That's separated for these bankers and these governments and these people in the financial institutions. You're not smart enough. So it puts you in a position to be a worker the rest of your life and to never be in control of your money. And so Nobuku, I know how you're feeling. And honestly, billions of people around the world have been taught that they are not responsible enough, they're not mature enough to manage the money that they work for most of their lives. I think that's ridiculous. And that's why we love decentralized finance, because it's giving financial freedom back to the people. So strangely enough, Nobuku, what we're working on here is in order so you don't get created again as a human being. I want, your daughter and your granddaughter and your great-great-granddaughter to never ask the same question. Am I too stupid to manage my own money? Am I not educated enough to understand my own finance? And Nobuku, it's not true. You can understand these concepts very quickly. And like I said, we've got people from the whole spectrum inside the DeFi Academy, people that have never traded a crypto before, and people that have traded more crypto than I've ever met in my life before. I've got people that are doing DeFi startups. We've got people all over the world. I think we're in 14 different time zones. This is the trusted source of information in the DeFi space. I seriously believe it's the best source of information in the entire space. And I couldn't be more proud of the DeFi Academy, and I can't wait to get started. So great question, Nobuku, and we appreciate you very much for all of your continued support here at London Real. I got Christoffel on Zoom that says, how is DeFi different from cryptocurrencies? It's a great question, Chris. And earlier I talked about Bitcoin, and people say, is Bitcoin DeFi? Honestly, Bitcoin seems like a currency, whereas DeFi is the internet of money. So if Bitcoin is a tool to transfer value, and it's an incredible tool, again, peer-to-peer, you take out the institutions, it happens almost immediately, it's global. What DeFi is, it's the entire ecosystem of financial services. Think about what you use your banks for: borrowing, lending, mortgages, insurance contracts, trading. And again, my team keeps hitting the gong in here. We've got another person that just joined the DeFi Academy. The truth is, this is closing down in days, so it's good to see people pulling the trigger, and I'll get your name soon and I'll give you a shout out. But DeFi incorporates all of those tools. Like I said, insurance, mortgage, lending, trading, borrowing, whereas Bitcoin is really more just a currency. Now, I know it's trying to be more, and I appreciate that, and I'm always looking for innovation. The beautiful thing about DeFinance is that you don't have to wait for a bank to create the innovation. And again, I worked in banking for 15 years. I was one of those people 30 years ago that was creating all of the good stuff that we see happening in DeFi right now. I was one of the rocket scientists. I worked for a company called Bankers Trust. It was 1993. I was on the 33rd floor of a building right next to the World Trade Center. Unfortunately, the World Trade Center went down and my building went down as well. So it doesn't exist anymore. But when I was there, I was creating some of the most innovative financial instruments that existed in the world. It all was happening on the 33rd floor of Bankers Trust. And I haven't seen anything as revolutionary since then until now. I'm telling you, some of the developers around the world in the DeFi space, they are creating the rocket science of our generation. And I couldn't be more excited to find a way to invest in them and help them take the financial infrastructure to the next level and give the freedom back to 4 billion people in the world who don't have basic financial services. Imagine how they could contribute to the world better if they could get access to basic lending, borrowing, insurance, trading. And why shouldn't they have the human right to do that? That's what bothers me. Why shouldn't they have the right to partake in these ecosystems? Banks, financial institutions, and governments honestly rob them of their human right to financial freedom. And I'm going to put an end to that, hopefully with your help inside the DeFi Academy. So a couple more things. That was Joaquin that just joined us. So we appreciate you, Joaquin. Let's get you in there right away. Again, Module 0 is ready for you. Put your introduction video and you're going to be blown away by the level of talent that's inside our DeFi Academy. I'm telling you, I'm so impressed with this group. This is the most trusted source of information and mentorship in the entire DeFi space. And I couldn't be more proud of it. So again, last question I got here. A couple more. Sorry, Robert Milstein on Zoom says, how is DeFi not a temporary trend in the same way that ICOs were? Great question, Robert. And we're going to talk about ICOs next. What we saw in the ICO space was a bit like the dot-com boom. And I was there back in 1999. I was the CFO of a dot-com startup. And I saw this boom because everyone thought, I want to get in on the next biggest thing. And there was nothing vetted. The business plans weren't there. And it was just a rush, and it was a land grab, and it was overdone. What I see in DeFi are real value-added protocols, Robert. I'm talking a way where you could literally buy insurance right now in a trusted way that you couldn't do from your financial institution. I'm talking about a way for you to borrow money, for you to lend money, for you to change your risk profile at a moment's notice. So what I see is core, crucial infrastructure. I don't see something that's the flavor of the month. This is something that's going to happen either way because it's been part of the banking infrastructure for the past 200, 300, 400, 500 years. Now we're seeing it done in a decentralized way. And that's why I can tell this is something different than the ICO boom and bust. Now, don't get me wrong. There will be volatility and there will be peaks and valleys. And that's why I'm only looking for people that have a 10-year perspective on this marketplace. I don't want anybody trying to get rich off these perspectives because it honestly puts you in a position to fail. And that's why we're looking for a small group of people that want to go on this long journey and create generational wealth. And honestly, I'm already confident we're going to do it. It's just now, how is the story going to unfold? And that's what's going to be the most fun part over the next 10 years. So great question, Robert. I appreciate you being on Zoom. And lastly, I got Adil Tahir on Zoom says, Brian, what do you reckon will be the future of stablecoins, which are pegged to USD? Adil, they're an incredible tool. I own some myself. We even accept them for the DeFi Accelerator, USDC. And it's an incredible innovation. I mean, it's 4 years old now, 3 or 4 years old. But again, it's a building block of what the future will hold. The more of these we get, the more of these synthetic instruments that we create in the DeFi ecosystem, and the more of them that are bulletproofed and made anti-fragile by crashes, and we'll talk about this in the next section, the more we know we can trust these stable coins through market drops of 50%, the more it will give the entire world faith in the decentralized ecosystem. So I'm happy for those to be stress tested, for insurance contracts to be stress tested, for decentralized exchanges to be stress tested, for Ethereum 2.0 to be stress tested. I want all of that to happen because it's anti-fragile, as in the more you stress it, the stronger it becomes. I'm the same way personally. The more you put me through, the better I become. And the ecosystems are the same here. So I'm looking forward to more of this, and I'm looking forward to more of these instruments being created by some of the greatest minds in the world. And again, let's remember, Vitalik was 19 when he co-founded Ethereum. How many other 19-year-olds in the world are there right now that could be helping this ecosystem? And that's what's so exciting about DeFi, and that's why it's growing at such a fast rate. All right, let's get back to my presentation today. And this is part 2, the ICO boom and bust of 2017. And you can see right here on the slide a really interesting table of the size of the ICO market by month in 2017. And you can see it starts off in January. It's not even 10 million. By September, it's almost hitting $1 billion of money raised in the ICO market, and then it starts dropping by October, November, December. And that gives you a nice little glimpse of the boom and bust that happened in the days of ICO. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of the lessons that we're going to learn here, and I'm going to get into that. What really helped that boom and bust, and I'll talk a little bit more about that ICO boom and bust, was the very first decentralized exchange, or DEX. And that was something called Ether Delta. And you'll probably see a logo here of Ether Delta. And at the time, it was revolutionary because Ether Delta represented the first decentralized exchange. And again, a lot of you know Coinbase and you know things like Binance. These are centralized exchanges where ultimately they require manpower, they require fiat currencies, And, they're not that much different than a stock exchange. But with EtherDelta, we saw a decentralized exchange built on Ethereum that allowed for permissionless exchange of the ERC20 tokens, which of course most of the ICOs were based on. And again, it was based on an order book, which of course didn't have the best user experience, and we'll get into liquidity pools later. And so a lot of times you were waiting to get the right price, and it wasn't what we know today, a very liquid environment. But despite that, EtherDelta was one of the most popular exchanges, especially during the ICO days, and I'll talk a bit more about that. Unfortunately, the exchange was hacked at the end of 2017. The hacker got access to the EtherDelta front end, it proxied the traffic over to a phishing site, and ended up scamming the users out of about $800,000. Unfortunately, later, the founder of EtherDelta was charged by the SEC for running an unregulated security exchange in 2018, and pretty much the party was over around EtherDelta. But again, it showed us some of the problems when it comes to DeFi. And that's why we have to stress test this stuff. That's why it's so important that these things are anti-fragile. And we saw and we learned lessons from EtherDelta. We learned that you've got to test these systems, and we also learned that we had to find those liquidity pools. And so I just wanted to give a note to that part of our history and then talk about what happened in ICO. So again, let's put that graph back up again and looked at this big ICO boom back in 2017, 2018. And I don't know about you, but I was being contacted by some people behind the scenes that were trying to sell me some ICOs. And it reminded me a lot of the dot-com boom back in 1999. And to just tell you a kind of a funny story, I remember I was in New York City, and I was the CFO at 27 years old of a company called LuxuryFinder.com. We just raised about $10 or $15 million from very wealthy people in New York City who had big houses in the Hamptons. And there I was, the CFO, and I would hang out with my buddies. We'd go out to drinks, not just on weekends, but many nights of the week. And I remember we started seeing these things happen, where all these startups started happening. There was Pets.com and Petco.com and Petland.com and all of these random things that were getting $50, $100 million of financing, right? There was Dentist.com and Dental.com, and all these things started popping up. And literally the business plan was 4 pages long. It had nobody behind it, and yet everybody was throwing their money at it. And we saw a little bit of this happen in the ICO boom and bust of 2017 and 18. We saw many companies floating these unregulated ICOs, and of course they're unregulated because it is DeFi, but they were initial coin offerings, and what happened was this. It resulted in multiple overhyped projects. They raised way too much money. A lot of them, all they had to show for it was a white paper, shorter than the original Satoshi Nakamoto white paper of Bitcoin, or worse, a lot of these were plain old pump and dump scams. Right? And if you want to know more about those, go watch the movie Boiler Room. There are people that create things, they hype them up, the price goes up, and then they all dump it when there are people trying to buy into something that doesn't exist. And it was an unfortunate time, and a lot of people got burned. But honestly, I think we learned a lot from that ICO era. We learned how to do due diligence. We learned how to look at what's behind a lot of these tools. We learned for proof of concept. And also, I want to admit that a lot of great things came out of the ICO boom and bust. And a few big companies that are now massive today came out of that entire period. One of those is Aave, an incredible company. I think we're going to have the CEO on here in a few more weeks. It's an incredible platform when it comes to yield farming and some of the incredible things going on out there. We've got Synthetics was created on the back of that ICO boom and bust, which creates incredible derivative instruments out there, as well as the Kyber network. So there were some incredible new things that happened during that period. Another very important thing that happened in 2017 and 18 was the creation of the user to contract model, which of course led on to the creation of Uniswap and something called liquidity pools. And again, I just want to call this out. The big breakthrough that happened then was this idea of users interacting with smart contracts, which contained pools of funds from multiple users rather than interacting directly with each other. And again, if you go back to EtherDelta, you had to wait around on that DEX until somebody else decided to come around who wanted to buy or sell the coin you wanted to sell. That produces a very horrible user experience. With the user to contract model, it changes everything. Because what happens is these decentralized applications, they don't require as many interactions with the underlying blockchain as the user-to-user model. And so we saw things created like Uniswap. And again, The reason I'm putting their logo up is because it always makes me laugh every time I see it. And Uniswap is really an incredible invention and an incredible logo. If you tell me, my sons love the Uniswap logo. And the value of this user to contract model would be shown in 2018 when Hayden Adams created Uniswap, which would revolutionize DeFi by building on this concept of liquidity pools and automated market makers. This is so crucial. And this leveraged that user to contract model. And again, I'm just giving you a little bit of a taste. We go deep into this inside the DeFi Accelerator, and all of those people will be learning a lot about Uniswap, this entire concept, when we kick it all off next week. So I want to ask questions from you because I learned the most from you. Tell me right now, whatever platform you're on, tell me, are you tired of centralized financial institutions like banks stealing money from hardworking people with hidden fees, costs, and margins? What questions do you have for me about DeFi? And why do you think it's going to revolutionize finance and give the financial freedom back to the people? Third, tell me, do you have a trusted source of information and mentorship in the DeFi and crypto spaces and who can advise you for the next 10 years? And lastly, tell me, would you like to learn from me on how to profit from DeFi and what I'm calling the greatest dislocation of wealth in human history? Leave me your comments right now. I'm going to them right now. Whatever your platform you're on, leave me a question right now. I got Josh Yoho on Instagram saying this guy is from the future. Thanks, Josh. I'm loving this stuff. Honestly, I eat, sleep, and drink DeFi. I can't think of anything else. I can't do anything else. And I can't wait to try to help as many people out there as possible, including the end users. So thank you so much. I got Dimple Haldar on Facebook says, how can I join your course? It's simple. Go to londonreal.tv/DeFi. That's DEFI. Fill out the application and sell me. Tell me why we should bring you into our elite group and our team that's going to really chart the future of this financial infrastructure. You've got a time in there, put your application in. Again, what do you bring to the table? It could be enthusiasm. It could be experience. It could be education. Whatever it is, type it in there and apply. And but you've only got, literally, we got days left. So be quick. I got Vishal Chavan here on Zoom. Great to see you. And by the way, let's give a shout out to our in-studio audience. If you're on Zoom right now, give me a wave. And let's just give a screen grab over there to everybody on Zoom. Just give me a wave there. We appreciate that. This is our in-studio audience. And again, we're giving the Zoom people the precedence on these questions, so we appreciate that. So we got Vishal here on Zoom that says, how does the system help us to build generational wealth? Great question, Vishal. I'm looking at a 10-year horizon for DeFi. And again, this market is growing by some metrics at a 100x rate in the past 12 months. Let me repeat that. This market is growing, by the way, by real metrics that you can quantify from the blockchain. So this isn't some report by some bank in New York City. This is stuff you can quantify on the blockchain. DeFi is growing 100 times in the past 12 months. 100 times. I've never seen anything in the history of financial markets, of internet markets, of anything grow this fast. And so I'm looking for a core group of people that want to literally invest in the future infrastructure. So I'm talking about funding startups. I'm talking about being in on those early governance tokens, those early trading tokens, those early systems to empower something that's going to create generational wealth. I'm talking about, massive changes in the way you live your life as a human, and I want to be a part of that. And while I'm here, let me talk about that. Every single minute of your day is a financial transaction. You just don't see it. And right now, that transaction is being co-opted by other people who are ripping fees and margins out of it every single time. And so you're just not aware of it.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.